We've got one more surprise in case this wasn't enough. I'm gonna let Elon do it. Who else is here?
Well, President Milei has a gift for me.
Javier Milei from Argentina. You guys know who that is, right?
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!
Did you see that? Did you?
Testing 1 2. I should be coming through to you. How are you doing tonight? Welcome to the Sunday live stream on My Left Eye. I'm your host Lefty. You're all very welcome here tonight. Thank you very much for choosing to see the week out here on the channel. Hope you've had a good week. All things dystopian considered, of course. We've got Chris JC in the chat as well. Great to see you. Blow Snake. Guitar Guy, FSM's the dog. Well, welcome, Doc Davies is in the house. How you doing tonight, people? Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, they're thems and comrades alike. Happy Socialist Sunday. Great to be back on the Sunday live stream, having had to skip last week's. Got a bumper back show for you. Yeah, a lot to cram in and things happening in real time as I'm streaming to you now. We've got the German elections, of course, this evening. And that's one of the topics I'll be diving into. I'll tell you more about the content on tonight's show when we get into Keith's Fondue Lounge, a Sunday custom, very shortly. Just wait for a few others to arrive. Heaps of stuff have been happening. So let me know how your week's been going in the chat. Also, please make sure you hit the thumbs up button on the stream. Give us a share around social media. And if you don't follow us already, please do if you're on Blue Sky. We're at My Left Eye UK there. Also on Mastodon. We will be moving over from Twitter to Blue Sky proper very soon, hopefully. And we will be hearing one or two bits from Elon Musk during the stream as well. Absolutely. You noticed Rick at the start of the live stream wasn't particularly impressed with the CPAC. More like PCAC, if you know what I mean. That's, yeah. PCAC, anyone? No? Okay, tough crowd, tough crowd. No, seriously though, it was absolutely mental. You might have seen a video I put out recently about Liz Truss's appearance. I'm going to be focusing on Elon Musk's appearance at CPAC tonight. Farage was there as well. But I'll be honest, people, by the time I'd edited Liz Truss's speech, I was actually going to do it as Truss and Farage. But she just... I needed a break. I needed a break. She melted my brain. She melted my head with what she said on that stage. Please do check that out if you've not seen it yet. Liz Truss at CPAC. To be very clear as well, saying that she died on stage, as I do in the title of the video, it means in the theatrical sense, the same way a stand-up comedian might, or JD Vance, or Liz Truss herself. Basically, if you don't get the reaction that you're looking for from the crowd, from the audience, then you're said to die on stage. I noticed one or two comments on the video that seem to have taken it literally and not figuratively. Yes, I would also like to customarily thank all of the members on the channel, whose names you can see before you now, the mighty members. You can join this list of wonderful people for just 99p. There's some great perks for you to enjoy. Early viewings, so members got to see that aforementioned video earlier than the public. Lots of other perks too, so please do check them out. Thanks a lot, good people, those of you who've renewed your memberships or gifted memberships to other viewers recently as well. That's a great way to support the channel, helps the community grow, and also helps to support the channel. I've got some new arrivals in the chat as well. Got Jojo, Andy Carter, great to see you. Edward Sexby, thanks for stopping by. Yes, well, thanks again, every single one of the members on the channel. And for recent super chats and super thanks as well. I really do appreciate the ongoing support. Right then, shall we go and visit Keith for a bit of fondue and talk about what's coming up on the stream. If you're not a regular viewer on the channel, this is a regular thing for Sundays. We dip into Keith's Fondue Lounge, a fantastic scene put together by the Agitator. I can't claim the credit for this one, but it's great stuff. I've always been a fan of the Agitator, so please do check them out at Agitate 4. That's the number 4 for change on Twitter and Blue Sky as well. Right, let's dig in. And I'll bring you good people up in the chat as well. You should be able to see there just about now. Great stuff. So here we are once again with the greatest earworm, I should say, on YouTube. That is Keith's Fondue Lounge music. Margaret Hodge is there as well, of course, as is Peter Mandelson. And lurking in the background, Lisa and Andy there. Don't hear a lot from Nandi these days, do you? Speaking of which, okay, but never mind that bollocks. What's coming up on the stream? Okay, I mentioned CPAC. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about Elon Musk's bizarre appearance. It's like they were all trying to out-mental one another, or out-cringe the audience. You saw I'm sure you're familiar by now with the bit with the chainsaw. Elon Musk coming out and being given a chainsaw by the far-right leader of Argentina, who he's flown all that way just to give him the bloody chainsaw, and then he just went off. He gave a few thumbs up and clapped and went off stage, and that was it. That was it. Thanks for coming all the way from, let's just check my notes, yes, Argentina. But that wasn't as crazy as it got. He was wearing the blackout shades, he's clearly on something. So I'll be going through Musk's appearance. Also, yeah, we'll be talking about the German election this evening. It does look like the Conservatives are heading for victory. But how well have the far-right AfD done? That's the big question. Yeah, so much to talk about. Ukraine and Gaza as well, of course. The latest there about the ceasefire, the threats to the ceasefire, exchanges of hostages, prisoners, and so on and so forth. Also, the BBC this week pulled a film on Gaza from iPlayer. I'll be talking a bit about that, as well as protests that have been going on over the ceasefire in Gaza. Where Ukraine's concerned, that is as well a fluid ongoing situation. We'll be checking into the latest on that. Is Zelensky going to do any deals with Trump over the mineral resources? Is even offered potentially to step down in exchange for Ukraine becoming a member of NATO. And this comes at the same time as a huge drone attack by Russia on Ukraine, just one day before the 3rd anniversary of Russia's invasion into Ukraine. More on that later. A few other things on the Middle East as well. Lebanon, there were massive crowds that gathered for the funeral of Hassan Nasrallah. Taking a bit of a look at that as well. UK stuff. Got a lot coming up on the stream, people. Yeah, over here in the UK, even further polling wars for Keir Starmer. Also an update on that WhatsApp messages scandal with MPs being sacked or standing down over these abhorrent messages in a WhatsApp group. Plus, updates on a few protests that have been taking place as well. So lots to come. Lots of, I hope you've got a big bowl of fondue to accompany you. I hope it's, there's a vegan option as well, Keith. Although with him, you can't be too sure. Even if he says there was, there probably wouldn't be. Yeah, lots to get through, lots to sink our teeth into tonight, people, so please do stick around. Before I get into clips and articles and whatnot, just a reminder, please do make sure you've hit that thumbs up button on the stream. Morbius, thanks for joining us, great to see you once again, as well as Baron von Kochschlapp. A very good evening to you too, Herr Baron von Kochschlapp. Ist in die Hase. A good question there, Flowstick. I'm not sure when the dog will finally bite them buttocks. He could go mental any minute. No, maybe not. Okay, people, shall we get started? We'll say goodbye to Keith and Co for now, be catching up with the latest on him as we get through the stream. But that's all for Keith's Fondue Lounge for now. We will get started with a comedy clip. I've got a few of those to intersplice into all the stories and goings on. This is one of the latest from the great Nerine Skinner, great impersonator, and yeah, been on top form recently. This is pretty quickly becoming my favourite impersonation of hers. It's Pet Peeves with Rachel Reeves, and she does get the voice and the facial gestures and stuff really bang on. So give Nerine Skinner a follow. This is the latest one from her.
Hello and welcome to Pet Peeves with Rachel Reeves. This week I'm mainly peeved with CVs. People keep saying I changed mine. Well, yes, I did. Truth time! HBOS actually stands for Home Bargains Office Supplies, and BOE doesn't stand for Bank of England, it stands for Bank of Embryos, where I used to help with sperm donations. I was very hands-on. People didn't like it. So yes, I did change my CV to make it look better, but everyone does. CVs can go in the peeve bin. I'm also peeved with leaving presents. Oh, Rachel, you spent loads of money on a meal. You bought your boss a really expensive handbag. Oh well, I was just trying to be nice, but apparently people don't like that. Well, how else am I meant to buy friends? Leaving presents can go in the peeve bin. Finally, I'm peeved with new mothers and their babies. Oh, does my baby look cute? No, it looks like a shriveled potato. It cries all the time and has no bladder control. I don't want to be reminded of my own personal issues. New mothers can go in the peeve bin. Goodbye. I was very hands-on.
Nerine Skinner, fantastic. Rachel Reeves, Pet Peeves. Yeah, so you can see there where you can give Nerine Skinner comedy a follow. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Nerine Skinner. Does other great impressions as well, including of Liz Truss with her Liv Truss character. More lightheartedness to come through the show. As we crack through the latest dystopian stories together here on My Left Eye. So speaking of which, okay, we'll get... Oh, God, I'm really gonna have to... I've not seen this all the way through yet. I'll skim through a few parts and seen a few clips going around social media and stuff as well, but this is going to be the first time I've seen this all the way through. Potential warning, you might be about to hear someone's brain melting live on the stream. So Musk at CPAC. It starts off with a chainsaw and then progressively gets worse from there. From my understanding, so let's dive into that together. I might have to be careful with the volume. I'm not sure if this track he had on is sort of walk-on music. It's got any copyright issues. I'll play that by ear, people. Right, strap yourselves in. If you thought Liz Truss was bad, I dare say that this could be somewhat worse. Deep breath, let's do this. Give me strength.
Man, that is a big crowd. And they are not here for me. How you guys doing?
It's Captain Arsekisser,
Nice
the
vibes
host
this
at
year,
CPAC.
right? After the best month we've ever had. Nice to see you all. Thanks for coming out. Good to see you. I'm not going to kill any more time. Let's bring out Elon Musk.
Just turn that walk-on track down. Sorry about the fluctuation in quality with the picture. That's at my end here. Don't adjust your screens or settings.
We've got one more surprise in case this wasn't enough. I'm going to let Elon do it.
I think we've had enough
Who else is
surprises this week.
Well, President Milei has a gift for me.
Javier Milei from Argentina. You guys know who that is, right?
Well, you just literally told him if they didn't, because I would imagine they probably didn't. My dog's a goth. Great to see you. Came all the way from Argentina just to hand this douchebag a chainsaw, stick his thumbs up and then sod off. So I've got to be careful about this background track, so I've got the volume down low. I think it's just about to cut off.
All right.
I love it. Mr. President, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President. Fuck off now. Back to the airport.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for the chain. We're keeping this, by the way. This isn't a rental or a borrow.
All right.
Yeah, that way. There you go. Thanks. Fuck off. And that's it.
Where should we put it?
They want it right here.
All right, great.
A little stage prop.
Okay.
Well, you
Background
guys too.
tracks disappeared now.
Thanks, guys.
Have a seat.
So,
So yeah, what's with the blackout shades? You're definitely sober. He's definitely sober while he was doing this. Politics Clive, great to see you.
yeah, pretty much.
I'm become meme.
I'm
he
living
says.
the meme. It's like there's living the dream and there's living the meme, and it's pretty much what's happening, you know.
You're like,
God.
I think you're bigger
I mean,
than
Doge started out as a meme. Think about it. And now it's real. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
But it's cool.
Let me ask you this. A year ago, if someone had told you you'd be at CPAC and working with
Just
the
comes on
president's
stage,
actions
declares
and
himself as a meme and that he's really cool.
government, the
and,
swamp, whatever you want to call
right.
it. Would you have ever believed that?
Well, some of the audience there might lap it up, but some of us have got IQs bigger than our shoe sizes,
But
you
it's
know what I mean?
cool. This is awesome. And I just want to say, thanks for your support. I mean, you guys are, So, I mean, we're trying to get good things done, but also, have a good time doing it, and, and have, a sense of humor, So, I mean, the sort of the left wanted to make comedy illegal, Like, you can't make fun of anything. So there's comedy sucks. It's like, nothing's funny. You can't make fun of anything. It's like...
You can make fun of lots of things. What actually happens, though, Elon, is anytime someone tries to take the piss out of you or capitalism, you actually try and do the actual cancelling. This awful right-wing bullshit that you can't say anything anymore, where comedy's concerned, is bollocks. All it means is times have moved on, and you don't want to see the old sort of working men's club comedians doing racist jokes, homophobic jokes, that sort of thing. Times have just moved on, and some things that used to be seen as acceptable aren't anymore, and that's not getting cancelled. That's not, oh, you can't say anything anymore. That only comes from the far right, because they're so much in the camp of snowflake, so thin-skinned that you take one little knock at them and they get absolutely rattled. We see Elon Musk himself do it all the fucking time, so yeah.
Legalize comedy. Yeah. Legalize comedy.
And we've shifted the entire culture in just the last few months. The whole culture of this country has shifted dramatically just because of that election.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, freedom of speech, having fun again. It seems like we should have a good time, you know.
I mean, it's a great time. Everybody in this place is so excited, and I mean, when you talk to conservatives, everybody's happy.
Yeah.
When they say free speech, that is the far right. They just want to be able to get away with saying racist, homophobic things online or in speeches or whatever. That's all it means, and it extends to a lot of other areas of society as well. But it's just bollocks.
Which, thanks to you, that has been accomplished.
Yeah. I want to ask you, one of the biggest questions I have for you is,
Chris, it's every accusation is a confession. It's pure narcissism, really.
Now you're on a side, and you've chosen a side. You're sitting here in a MAGA hat. What's it? You know, how did that happen? What was the moment?
It's like dark Gothic MAGA.
That's a good one.
God, that laugh as well. God, oh, it's like daggers in the brain. So dark Gothic MAGA. What the? I mean, my dog's a goth. I'd like to hear your feelings about this. You know, Elon Musk is trying to worm his way into goth culture. Not cool. Not cool.
Was there a specific moment? Was there a moment that it all changed?
It's cringe, and we've got that.
Yeah, when I realized I was a fool.
You know, that's how your dogs feel.
No, I was,
then that's good enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I was politically neutral for quite a while. Leaning a little Democrat.
He wasn't. He was really. He was playing the left. He was coming along as though he was the different breed of billionaire. He thinks people have got 2-second memories, and now he's just completely done a 180 on that, and he's firmly in the far right. He always has been. Pretending to be socialist thing was always just a scam. Some people saw through it. Some people didn't.
They want state control of what you say. They want to, take away your guns. And the reason they want to take away your guns, so there's nothing you do to oppose them. So it's sort of like, I just like we just need to restore the fundamental elements of what made America great, which is freedom and opportunity.
Yeah.
When you talk about freedom and opportunity, just talk exclusively middle-aged white men. Is that what you're talking about? Because things haven't been that way, and this false nostalgia, the MAGA crap of Make America Great Again, they can't tell you when they thought. Are you talking about the 1950s when there was segregation? Are you talking about the nuclear arms race? Are you talking about the warmongering? Are you talking about the decades of overthrowing democratically elected leaders and in coups and various other nefarious methods, inserting your own leaders who you could then control the country through? Is that what you're talking about, Elon? When's this great period? Or are you talking about the 1980s when Reagan, along with Thatcher here in the UK, deregulated the stock market to create this boom and bust frenzy that's been happening since? When was this period of greatness? Do tell us, but they can't tell us because it's just a bullshit phrase. We all know.
We're seeing a lot of these freedoms disappearing in the West. It's not just about America. We're all watching Europe and knowing that they're about 50, 100 years ahead of us, right? Because they got an early start. And we're watching how they're devolving. And you're trying to save it from happening here.
No, I mean, in Europe, they put people in prison for memes.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, that's insane.
And they're collapsing. I mean, this society it's a collapsing society. It feels that way.
It feels like,
France was nicer
Yeah.
50 years ago than it is today.
yeah,
I don't think you can question that.
yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, really.
Don't do ketamine, people. Really don't do ketamine. I'm sure Liz Truss was probably sharing some of that with him backstage before the respective appearances.
Useful things like, you know, basically build products, you know, provide products and services that are good, and I wasn't really like that interested in being political. It just like there was at a certain point no choice.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, can I ask you on the same side of that coin, what's it like from going neutral to being vilified, largely vilified by the media? Like
What? No. Really?
I mean, you turn on some of these.
What do you mean? Oh God, that laugh again. What he means by that is really that part. He was surprised that Mr. Arsekisser host here, I didn't even get his name. Don't say I care to know it either. But that was Musk's way of saying, excuse me, you've been instructed to just give me props and do nothing else. You're not allowed to criticise me for one moment. That's the element of the show. Or do you want to censor him now, Elon? For pointing out that you've been vilified for your Nazi salutes? Amongst a myriad of other things, no? No? Okay.
Channels, brother. I mean, they're angry at you. Does it bother you at all? Does it get to you? Yeah.
I mean, when they're chanting for my death, I suppose that's a little,
Yeah.
you know.
Not good.
Well, if they said death to fascists, then they would have probably included you. That I don't know. I can't speak on behalf of them, whoever you're referring to.
There's a lot of music lately. It's not good music either. Yeah.
Yes.
I would say that watching what you're doing with Doge is just that people love it. I mean, I've always looked at the government, and I've always looked at the government. And I've seen this big machine and you just know that they waste because they don't care. Nobody cares. There's more money coming. They don't care.
Yeah.
You're cutting all this out. Everybody in this country knows that the government is full of waste, fraud, and abuse. And you're doing.
Yeah, you're looking at $8 million a day worth of it. You're literally talking to him right now. You're literally talking to $8 million a day going down the drain.
Sit there and scream and complain because they're cutting waste out of the government and try to win another election. How do you try to win on that?
Well, at this point, I'm not sure how much of the left is even real.
Yeah.
You know.
How much was propped up by our money? You know.
Yeah. Like literally, you know, you see like these sort of fake rallies where there's like hardly any people, and the media will like frame it. And, like,
Well, there's hardly any. Have you ever seen a Zionist rally or
There's
a
like
far
no
right
voices
rally?
there. Like, there's
What are you talking about? We get millions. You got millions of people.
But then you learn that like there's hundreds of billions of dollars going to these so-called NGOs.
Yeah.
And it's your tax dollars that are funding things that are fundamentally anti-American.
And they're propping up their narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andy, 400 million Cybertruck deal. He just wants to get his hands on public money and feed it into his crappy tech projects to try and save his stock.
The government wants to take over media.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. That's why we have X.
Yeah, and
That's why you spent $44 billion. I mean, that's a lot of money.
I mean,
More than it was probably worth. But there was a message.
freedom is priceless.
Priceless. Yeah.
No, you made what you thought was a fake offer that didn't have you committed to 44 million, but it was in fact legally binding. Therefore, you had to buy it. You tried to wriggle your way out of it, and now I think I've seen this part of the interview, and I think he says it's probably worth about 8 cents now, or $8 or something. But he's no. He's backtracking on what actually happened. That's not the way it went down. And he certainly didn't spend $44 billion on it because he thought that so-called freedom is priceless. He just had an adult baby strop and went too far. For the record, during the peak of its success, Twitter made $1 billion in profit during a year. So he'd have to equal that for 44 years consecutively just to break even.
Probably one of the most important investments this country's ever seen. If you got to protect the First Amendment, it's not much more important than that.
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of criticism, and people said, well, that proves he's a huge idiot from a, like, look, he bought it for whatever, $44 billion, and now it's worth like 8.
You are an idiot. It's no genius at all. You're not an engineer.
But there's the, but the, yeah, it was essentially to buy freedom of expression, and yeah.
Once that's gone,
Anyone here
it's all over.
Yeah.
on the stream or watching back, if you've been blocked by Elon Musk, please do let us know.
All federal money going
Yeah, for him to say that is
what helps explain
rank hypocrisy, because I have seen plenty of people who share screenshots of what Elon Musk has blocked them for.
Like, isn't it like, it's like weird, like you put
Freedom
them
of
up with,
speech.
like, like when
They're mouthpieces for
the state.
the state,
Yes.
and that's what we've come to know.
Yeah.
It's scary.
And I like that meme where they because they're always saying like threat to our democracy, but if you just replace democracy with bureaucracy,
Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense.
it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Big
So-
threat to the bureaucracy.
That's exactly right. Let's talk about these Doge dividend checks that everybody's talking about this week. And I know you tweeted out that you were gonna. Does everybody want like a $5,000 check in the mail? It sounds kind of good, right? And the best part about it would be
Talk
knowing
about
where it
universal
came from.
basic
That's
income.
$5,000 that you sent them last year.
Totally. It's
No.
money that's taken away from things that are destructive to the country, and from organizations that hate you to you. That's awesome.
Does it seem? I mean, have you talked?
I mean,
to
that's
the
like
president?
glorious. That's like
It's the best.
the spoils of battle.
Like he's going to be taking wastage of money away from 150-year-olds who don't exist. They're just still on the filing system. This has been debunked. But he and Trump have been touting the idea that there are people who are going on 200 years old who are milking the system for millions.
I mean, I think
Just
they fired
deluded
6,000
nonsense.
people at the IRS today.
Yeah.
And I think Lutnick said last night that they're talking about shutting down the IRS. And I think it's fair. I think people should realize this is. I mean, the amount of money that we send Washington like $5 or $6 trillion a year. That is such an ungodly amount of money. I mean, what do they? They say like a trillion seconds is like 30 years or something like that. I mean, that's how much we send them, and they seem to never have enough. There must be a lot you can cut.
No, absolutely. People ask me, what's the most surprising thing that you've encountered when you go to D.C., when you're in D.C.? And I said, well, the most surprising thing is the scale of the expenditures. And actually...
I'm surprised by just how easy it is for him to steal public money.
Add caring and competence where it was absent before, you can actually save billions of dollars, sometimes in an hour.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild.
And then they scoff at it and say, oh, a few billion here or there. I mean, the way they're talking about it, you can see they don't care. It's such little money compared to how much they're used to wasting. That's what's really scary.
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. But obviously, it just shows that they really lack empathy for the average taxpayer who's working hard, paying taxes, and then they say, oh, $1 million doesn't matter. I'm like, I think it matters a lot to people,
I mean,
So what are you talking about?
I'd like to have it. Let me ask you a question. I know the president fairly well, watched him survive 2 assassination attempts. Had the first one not happened, the second one would have gotten him. It was very, because without those extra guys...
Yeah, sure did heal very quickly. Just saying.
Isn't it like mind-blowing that this has happened? I mean, it just... And what, by the way, why do we still know nothing about that guy in Butler? What's going on? But Cash is going to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, there you go.
By the way,
Confirmed just a couple hours ago, but I saw that the security detail that you had come in is enormous.
Well, it's not that enormous. Maybe it should be bigger. I don't know.
I think you could probably afford it. But I mean, how concerned are you about your safety? Dealing, I mean, you are a wanted man. Are you nervous?
So, look, I'm open to ideas for improving security, I have to tell you. Like, I don't actually have a death wish, I think. But you know, it's not that easy. Yeah. I mean, but I have like, I've had even like people like President Bukele from El Salvador who managed to put in prison like, I don't know, 100,000 like murderous thugs. And he was like, he called me, he's like, I'm worried about your security. I'm like, you're worried about my security? I'm like, what? Okay. That's you know.
I mean, yeah, talk about guts to do that down there.
No, I bet that never
totally.
actually
survive.
happened.
Like, I'm like, I was like, how did you put all those thugs in prison without dying? Because it seems like that would have been not easy.
Jacqueline, great to see you. Hope you're well.
The president has, one of his top attorneys is now investigating, I guess, Chuck Schumer for threats against SCOTUS. A congressman on the Democrat side. We're saying, you know, basically saying we're going to bring a war to you, like a fight to you. I mean, the rhetoric, you guys are screwing with things that are not supposed to be messed with. And
we're fighting the Matrix.
There's a lot
big
of
time.
people that really don't want that to happen.
Yeah, we're fighting the Matrix big time here.
Fighting the Matrix.
And
Are you?
What kind of gobbledygook is that?
What's going on with? Tell us about Fort Knox.
Yeah.
It's Kentucky. It's a military base. It's a ton of gold, tons and tons and tons
Like
of gold.
5,000 tons of gold or
5,000
give or
tons
take,
of gold
you know?
are there in the ground and like this. I mean, it's a very secure
I think
thing.
we all want to see it. You know?
I'd love to see it.
Like, this is your gold, by the way. It's the public's gold.
Do you think it's not there?
And he wants
I
to
don't know.
steal it?
But I think
You just want to see it.
Yeah, we want to go see it and just make
Oh, yeah,
like
just
somebody
want to
just
see it.
spray paint some lead or something, you know?
Yeah.
Like, is this real gold? Fight at the bar, you know?
Didn't dent.
But I think, honestly, you know, part of this also is just like, let's have some fun and you know, like I said, all this gold at Fort Knox, it's the public's gold. It's your gold.
The Federal Reserve's
So, like,
bigger.
I think you have like a right to see
Countries
it.
who keep
take a
their
tour,
gold
you know?
there aren't even allowed to go and see
I
it
think we should
themselves.
have
They keep
a tour. And
gold
then
there
the
from other
president last night
countries,
was like,
but the
"That's
Federal
not-" I think
Reserve's
he's in favor of it. That would be cool.
They've
And
got
then
a
it
larger
should be like a live tour. Like you can see what's going
stock
on.
of gold than
Open the
Fort
door.
Knox.
Like what's behind it.
Well, and there's
you know, I think I'd watch that.
Oh, are you kidding?
Yeah.
I mean, what does 5,000 tons of gold look
totally.
like?
What does
How
it
big
look
is
like?
that? Is it the size of this?
It's got to be pretty
stage? I
big.
mean,
So, with the poverty that's ravaging through America, as well as perhaps as being on the brink of a global war, Musk seems to think that what will make people feel better is just if you take a camera crew down there going to Fort Knox and show them a massive pile of gold that he says is theirs, but when they see that and they can't even feed the families, it will almost somehow seem like rubbing it in. I don't see the benefits of that. That's certainly not going to solve the issues that America's got overnight. But that's what Musk seems to think it is.
You know.
it's got to be a lot of
Maybe
gold.
there's some other stuff in there. Like just walk around. Like I don't know. Maybe they got some other stuff in there.
Are you thinking about auditing the Federal Reserve as well, which is obviously is a
Yeah, sure.
regulatory
While we're at it.
economy? I imagine you think the waste has got to be everywhere.
Yeah, no, waste is pretty much everywhere. People ask, like, how can you find waste in DC? I'm like, look, it's like being in a room, you know, and this target, the wall, the roofs, and the floor are all targets. So it's like, you're gonna close your eyes and go shoot in any direction. Because you can't miss, you know?
What he did was he probably got high as a kite and then he watched Goldfinger and he had this incredible idea, which he's now pouring out on the stage.
Scary, isn't it? It's really
That's why I say, like, it really is underrated.
Maybe should have watched
if you
Die
add
Hard 3 instead.
Caring and competence, how much things improve.
yeah.
And you know, and we just find so many totally crazy things, which, you know, we're sharing with the public. We post everything we learn. You know, just you know, so you can see it. You know.
What do you? I mean,
and like it's like, isn't it like it's totally wild? Like we just did like a check the database on Social Security. Like it says how many alive Americans eligible for Social Security are there?
An unelected man is going through Social Security records and deciding who should and shouldn't get welfare. That is
and how many
the state of things in the United States of America.
And then like we found
at the
like
moment.
one person in there.
And
like
this is going to be
300
challenged
years old.
as well,
Like,
by the way,
what, they know Ben
legally.
Franklin or something? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, America didn't exist before at that time. Like, so.
Yeah, we were colonies.
You know, maybe it's just me, but I think it's a red flag. I don't know.
But are there indications that that there were checks going to those people or any of those people?
Well, yeah.
That's, I guess, the question, right? I mean, I get the Social Security Administration is dumb, but are they paying these people? Are they that dumb? I don't know.
A bunch of money is going out from the Social Security Administration, and in fact, from all entitlements programs.
$72 billion in waste in like 7 years. That's $10 billion a year.
Well, I think the
Fraudulent payments.
the rough or estimate from Government Accountability Office is over $500 billion.
Forget white collar fraud. Let's just focus on an infinitesimally small amount of welfare fraud compared to the absolute trillions that are probably acquired through, again, nefarious means
It sort of actually makes sense
in areas like the stock market.
top level and say like, okay, the $7 trillion was
No,
spending.
that doesn't exist. Let's just focus on poor people.
Okay, exactly. Like a conservative estimate of the $7 trillion would be 10%. Conservative.
Probably a little higher than that, yeah.
Exactly.
Feels like a quarter out of every dollar, right?
But if the fraud's only 10% of $7 trillion, you've got $700 billion of fraud.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's like really easy to take advantage of the federal government. It's very easy. So,
Very easy. Look at COVID.
yes.
Everybody got rich during COVID. I mean, look at all these scammers. I mean,
No,
it's
no,
unbelievable.
Elon, if you're talking about your own social class, the wealth gap between the poorest and the richest expanded exponentially during COVID, almost dollar for dollar. The richest in the world increased their wealth by 3 trillion, whilst 3 trillion was cut to support the working class and the American middle class, that is.
Let me ask you, let's do immigration here for a second.
Everyone he knows
You know, there's
got rich during COVID.
this move now that Trump's latest thing is that
What a piece of shit.
he's going to cut funding, any kind of money that ends up in the hands of illegal immigrants. So if you're funding these sanctuary cities and states, that's how they thrive, right? They're paying for these hotels. That's all federal money. If you got a hotel in your city, in New York, you got all these hotels full of migrants, that's not state money. That's the feds are covering that. He's going to cut all that. It's really hard to deport 15 million people. And it seems like the move now is, let's see if we, especially at the rate that we're going, it seems like the move now is, let's make it so that they leave on their own. If there's no longer a dole system for them, if they can't get their hands on hotel rooms and money, they're going to go back, especially if there's no work.
Well, I think it's really important for people to understand that the Biden administration sent any possible money that they could if there was money they could send to.
All I understand, fella, is that you've got no goddamn right to be making these decisions in the first place. You've been parachuted in by a lunatic, despotic oligarch of a president,
and sent that money to luxury hotels
and now this is
for illegal immigrants in New York.
the very definition of dystopia. We're in idiocracy territory,
And
people.
not only that, even after the president signed an executive order saying it has to stop, the FEMA, the sort of whatever deep state bureaucrats still pressed send on $80 million last week to go to the Roosevelt Hotel in New York and other places last week. And now they're mad that they've got.
Do you know how much Donald Trump spent on golf courses with public money since he got in? Elon, have you got any idea about that?
Do you think that was the goal when they opened up the borders for 4 years? Create a new voter class, get them citizenship, get them in, green cards, vote.
A lot of these things, like you don't actually have to assume some grand conspiracy. You just need to look at basic incentives.
Who benefits?
So if the incentives, fundamentally, if the probability that an illegal is going to vote Democrat at some point, whether it's cheating, but eventually they can become citizens. But
An illegal? No. Pausing there. Just what the hell was that? So if they're illegal immigrants, Elon, then they're not going to be able to vote. They can't vote. And he just said, "Oh, what if they're like cheating or whatever?" No, that doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. And again, you hear this from the far right all the time. They just label anyone who comes into the country as an illegal, whether they're perfectly legal migrant, whether they're claiming asylum, whatever it is, everyone has to be labelled as an illegal to stir up the racism and the xenophobic rhetoric that comes with the far right. Again, absolute nonsense, poppycock, delusional bullshit. This man is batshit crazy.
90%. Just look at California, which is supermajority Dem. And then the incentive is to maximize the number of illegals in the country. That is why the Biden administration was pushing to get in as many illegals as possible and spend every dollar possible to get as many, because every one of them is a customer, every one of them is a voter.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing was a giant voter importation scam.
Pretty obvious.
Very obvious.
Yeah.
Oh, what a giveaway. Did you hear that? Did you hear that, eh? That's what I'm on about.
And then moreover, then they actually created the CVP1 border app thing, where they were, which is like where they would literally fly people in. It's not like like at the point at which people are being flown
This
in
doesn't
at
happen.
your expense.
This just does not
planes.
happen.
Like building a
Pick people
wall
up,
doesn't
fly
matter.
them over the border.
Yeah, they're literally flying them in.
No other country in the world would do something like this. Nobody is this stupid.
Yeah, and then we found that
You got to be
there
pretty
was like
stupid
$100
to lap up this
million
crap. Or,
contract
you know,
given to
Mr. Askis a host here is buying it, but
London,
no,
actually, oddly enough,
that dog don't
for the
hunt.
CVP1
Elon,
app.
that dog does
So-
not
so
hunt.
then-
Graham
so
Turner,
they're
thanks a lot
flying,
for the
illegals
super chat.
into
Hope
the
we're doing well
swing
tonight.
states.
Just going to give that
And if you've got like
thumbs up and some
margin of
appreciation.
victory of
Thanks
maybe
again
20,000
for that show of
people,
support.
and you fly 200,000 illegals into that state. It's not going to be a swing state for long.
Change the numbers eventually.
Yeah.
Maybe in 4 or 8 years, you're talking about
It's
perpetual
just a matter
power.
of time.
It's a long game.
It's
a
just
long
a matter
game.
of time.
Yeah.
So it might take like a year for an asylum seeker or something to get a green card, and then 5 years for the citizenship. It's an investment that is guaranteed to pay off.
Yeah.
Just a question of when.
They all remember who brought them in and who left them here.
Exactly.
Exactly. I want to go back. I want to talk about
This is
Biden.
a big
for
deal.
second.
Like I think a lot of people don't quite appreciate that this was an actual, real scam at scale to tilt the scales of democracy in America.
It's treasonous.
Treason.
Yeah. One more.
That's a very strong accusation if they're going to bring the T word into it, but that also requires extraordinary evidence. And again, that's just right-wing propaganda. That's a lie. It's a conspiracy theory that has about as much credit to it as flat Earth or geocentrism or hollow Earth theory, or that birds aren't real and they're all robots that spy for the CIA. This is the kind of crap that the far right will put out. It's on a par with that, that's for sure. Just absolutely terrible.
Biden question. I remember when they would do the electric car stuff, they would always try to box you out, even though you have the only electric car anybody wants.
Yeah.
You said, I think this week.
Boxing out, you should talk to the people who actually founded the company and developed the technology before this guy swooped in, bought them out, made them, forced them into signing over intellectual property rights and the company to him so that he could try and claim that he came up with all of their stuff. And that's the way it went down. He's a buyout, hype merchant, specialist, stock market fraud.
The promise of justice or injustice under the Biden administration was, they were suing SpaceX. They were suing SpaceX for not hiring asylum seekers. And we're like, but it's actually illegal for us to hire asylum seekers because rocket technology is covered under ITAR rules, which means it's an advanced weapons technology.
Yeah.
And so we can only hire permanent residents or green or citizens.
Again, this is just
so we're damned if we do,
nonsense.
damned if we don't. We sort of,
Actually got to be kidding.
You gotta be fucking
How can they sue us for not hiring asylum seekers when it's actually illegal for us to do so? But nonetheless, there was a big Department of Justice or injustice case about this against SpaceX. So obviously it was an antagonistic situation. And those astronauts were supposed to be up there for 8 days, and now they're up there for 8 months. Does that make any sense?
So this thing he's getting into now is claiming that astronauts, there's this big argument over why some astronauts can't come back from a space station as soon as they were scheduled. The thing is, the astronauts themselves are actually quite happy to be up there, and they don't want a big fuss being made over getting them back, so they're just going to wait for the next scheduled changeover, which isn't going to be for some time. They don't want to waste any money or make a big fuss out of it. Also, they might enjoy the experience of being on a space station, carrying out the research if everything's going well, and they're happy there. Musk is trying to make a big hoo-ha out of it, and he's thrown shade and insults at members of NASA, and it's turned into this ugly mess as well. But the truth has been presented to him, and once again, in the typical adult baby fashion, he tries to throw his toys out the pram and makes up a bunch of ridiculous crap to try and accuse the other people of lying. And he jumps through hoops to do it as well. The lies that he puts out are always so elaborate and immediately debunkable that it just really blows my mind. It really does. I can't believe that people actually lap this up.
And we obviously could have brought them back sooner, but they didn't want anyone who supported President Trump to look good, basically.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
He does a good enough job of that himself,
Elon.
Elon.
Right now that the reason that you want to get into Social Security, that you want to get into all of these different, into Treasury and things like that, is that you're looking for personal information and you're trying to make more money.
Yeah.
I've never met anybody as rich as you that cared less about money in my life. Every time I hear a story about you, you're sleeping on a couch of some other guy in a city that you could buy the entire thing.
Yeah,
I don't think you care about money, do you?
Of course he does. Of course he does. That's why he's stealing public money
listen, like,
to put it into the monstrosity that is Cybertruck and SpaceX. He's probably going to have another go at Hyperloop and these self-driving taxis and self-driving cars that haven't appeared yet.
You're going to end Medicare. You're going to end these things. I don't imagine that conversation has been had with the president, and that's the plan.
No, in fact, the actions that we're taking with the support of the president and the support of the agencies is what will save Medicare, what will save Social Security.
Yeah.
And because if the country goes insolvent, if all the money is just spent on paying interest on debt, there's no money left for anything.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I'm doing this, is because I was looking at the big picture here, and it's like, man, our debt's getting out of control. The interest payments, the interest on the national debt now exceeds the entire Defense Department budget.
$1 trillion a year in
Yes.
interest. Just to carry the money that we owe is $1 trillion a year.
Yes.
That is unbelievable.
And rising rapidly. So like, a country is no different from a person. Country overspends, country goes bankrupt. Same as a person who overspends goes bankrupt. So it's not like optional to solve these things. It's essential. So
We're going to go bankrupt.
yes.
We are. Couple minutes left here.
Yeah, Graham.
Russia.
Billionaires,
Huge push from the
capitalists are the biggest threat to democracy that there is.
Like,
Absolutely.
I'm a bought asset of Putin.
Yeah.
I'm like, he can't afford me.
Yeah. I think you're worth more than Russia.
Think about it.
I like that. So, you're trying to end a war. Ending a war always means you have to compromise, you have to negotiate with an enemy or an adversary. That's just what it is. And right now, they are lambasting the president for trying a different method to a war that they haven't been able to end for 3.5 years or 3 years.
Yeah.
They're saying Trump's blaming Zelensky for the invasion. How do you process all of the negativity toward him for trying to end this war?
Well, first of all, I think we should have empathy for the people dying at the front lines. That's the most important thing. And people have been dying, it's like, how many more years is this supposed to go on?
Yeah.
And imagine if that was your son, your father, what are they dying for?
Yeah.
What exactly are they dying for? That line has
Or people have got some fireworks going off outside.
For 2 years.
Yeah.
There's a whole
Got to
bunch
keep
of
the mic off for a minute.
people dead in trenches for what? And I'll tell you what for what. It's like for the biggest graft machine that I've ever seen in my life. That's for what. It's unreal. Like the amount of money that is being taken in graft and bribery is disgusting. And so what's actually happening is that those people, those poor guys are getting sent into a meat grinder for money. That's what's actually going on.
Yeah.
And it needs to stop.
And that's, I mean, it seems, I mean, Trump is so pragmatic on this. He's just looking at it and he's saying, it's Ukraine, it's not our country, it's not a NATO ally. I just want to see people not dying. I want to see on both sides.
Okay, so we know that Musk doesn't care anymore about the loss of human life any more than Trump does. He doesn't care about Ukrainians. He doesn't care about Gazans. This is all to keep lining their own pockets, to keep making political alliances that will be beneficial for themselves, for their businesses, for their financial interests. And it is the dirtiest of dirty money that we're talking about. I'm not going to hear anything about them being concerned for the loss of civilian life or soldiers' lives.
I got one more for you.
Absolute fake sympathy. That's what it is.
I've been fascinated by you for a very long time.
Thanks.
I've never seen anybody that can, do so many things at the same time. I mean, you've got the rockets, you got the cars. I've always wanted to ask you, what is it like inside your mind? Like, is it just 1,000 miles an hour? I mean, are you?
Yeah.
Is it just not? I mean, does it ever stop? Do you sleep? How much do you sleep?
Oh, I'll show you what it's like inside his mind. It's a little bit like this. Yeah, something like that.
What's? Paint us a picture of inside of the mind of a genius. Like, how do you do all this? Can you answer that question? It's not an easy question. Yeah.
I mean, my mind is a storm.
Yeah.
So, it's a storm. But I mean,
yeah, a storm of amphetamines, I'll bet.
But I think it's worth, kind of nonetheless, maybe just elaborating on something, which is, I grew up in South Africa, but my morality was informed by America. I read comic books, played Dungeons and Dragons, and...
Hey, do you remember when Trump was president last time around and he spent so much time going on about Barack Obama being born in Africa, which was false. He was actually born in Hawaii, but saying that someone from Africa shouldn't be running the country. And now we've got the certified genuine South African here. But no, not a word said about that. Don't know why it is.
And I watched American TV shows.
Oh yeah, because he's white. That's why. Yeah.
It seemed like America cared about being the good guys, about doing the right thing. And that's actually pretty unusual, by the way.
Yeah.
It's like
In the world, it's very unusual.
It's not like actually.
Most countries don't do that.
No, they don't.
No.
And
Most countries don't let an unelected billionaire go rifling through the social security system to decide who should get welfare and who shouldn't.
so I was like, yeah, you want to be this good. You want to be on the side of good. You want to care about what's right, and So that's what I believe in. So.
I gave you a tough one at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I could come up with some tougher questions to ask Elon Musk. That's for sure. And that's that. Oh, lordy. Woo! I survived. I just about survived without the brain fully melting. But it was tough. And oh my God, have you ever seen anything like this? This is atrocious. If you're watching this back in decades to come, anyone, we are doing our best to try and stop these nutcases. I assure you we're just as appalled as you are. Oh, wow. Yeah, there's no autism happening there, no neurodivergence. He's just a straight up far right lunatic. Let's see what you're saying in the chat. Good point there, my dog's a goth. It was his man Trump that added 8 trillion in extra debt the last time, which is another hypocrisy. He'd probably get to Mars quicker if he just stacked up his own hypocritical statements one by one. He could essentially just walk there if you put on a spacesuit. Yes, I know physically that can't happen before any one gets in touch about that. But you see what I'm getting at. Yeah, Andy, he's a total creep. Clive, Elon's mind is a sink outside a door. That's an interesting way of putting it. Baron von Cockschlap, you're the hip-hop-opotamus, your lyrics are bottomless. Okay. Right, okay, let's just leave that. Let's just leave that there. Hedy, great to see you as well in the chat. Hope you're well. Hope you're well tonight. Man, oh man. That sure was something. Right, lots more stuff to move on to. I think after that, people, we could do with a little comedy break. It's such a rampacked show, I wasn't going to do another comedy clip till towards the end, but I've got a surplus actually at the moment, so I think I'll just take a little break while I play this comedy clip. Bear with me while I get this queued up. Sorry I didn't put it in the broadcast software because I didn't know we were going to need that. Although I maybe should have anticipated just how awful Musk might be, so. So this is going to be the latest from Jonathon Pye. Please check him out if you're not familiar already. Just the tech. This one moment. There we go. Yeah, Jonathon Pye, been around for a while now. If you happen to not be familiar with him, please do check him out. I've had the pleasure of seeing him live. Actually, met him after the show as well. Nice fella. And remember, he's just he's a character. It's not the actual same in real life. Okay. Do enjoy this if you've not seen it already. This is the latest slice of Jonathon Pye.
The tech billionaire reiterated calls by the US president and Russia for Ukraine to hold new elections, saying President Zelensky is despised by his people and reiterating President Trump's assertion that he is a dictator. Neville Chamberlain must be up there now, must be down there now, thinking at last a bigger fucking pussy than I was, because at least Neville Chamberlain didn't come back reading from a bit of anti-Czech propaganda that Hitler had written for him. Are we still America's allies now that America is openly using Kremlin propaganda? Trump is clearly one of the worst negotiators in geopolitical history. The first time ever an American president has criticised an ally for not surrendering to an invading army. You fucking pussyhole. Trump claiming that Ukraine started the war is like Roosevelt saying, well, what the fuck were those ships doing in Pearl Harbor in the first place? The art of the deal, eh? the great negotiator, showed his hand after 2 seconds, showed the world that he'd been entirely captured by Kremlin talking points. Instead of at least pretending to be neutral so that he could get his Nobel Peace Prize, he immediately showed that he was openly hostile to one of the parties, and not the invader, the invaded. The art of the deal. The guy negotiating with Russia is a Fox News host. Although, what's the point of a functioning Defence Department if you're going to surrender to your enemy after just 1 month in office? Imagine being the President of the United States with the richest man in the world as your pet and still shitting the bed every time someone points out that you're being a wanker. And you can tell that Trump doesn't actually think Zelensky is a dictator because his nose isn't nestled up Zelensky's anus whilst giving him a reach around like he does with real actual dictators. The UK didn't have a general election for 10 years because of World War II. That doesn't make Winston Churchill a dictator. Zelensky has not banned opposition parties, just the ones openly pro-Russian. Just like we banned the fascist party when Hitler was bombing the shit out of us on a nightly basis. Zelensky has not banned independent media, just pro-Russian propaganda. And NATO expansionism is not the reason we have this war. NATO expansion on Russia's borders stopped in 2004. So what? Russia was so annoyed that they waited 10 years to invade Crimea and then a quick 8-year breather and then on to Ukraine. Utter bollocks. And now let's see what the UK's favourite fag-smoking everyman MAGA flag shagger Nigel Farage has to say on the matter. Oh, no, he's not available for comment because he's on a plane flying off to a Trump cheerleading conference in Washington to share the stage with Liz Truss, Steve Bannon and Elon Musk, who's holding a chainsaw. Oh, no, we've got him on the line. Over to you, Nigel. Well, I think you find, if you know your history, we did have elections during the Second World War, so, yes, Nigel, you're quite right. But we waited until Hitler had blown his fucking brains out, you disingenuous, cowardly, boot-licking, Trump line-towing, cock-sucking coward. Any other comments, Nigel Farage? Well, I agree with Donald Trump. Ukraine must have elections as soon as possible. Very well. And let me ask you this, Nigel Farage, you cowardly, cock-sucking cocksucker. How on earth is Ukraine supposed to have an election with 6 million of its people displaced? Russian drones attacking them every single day, with 3.5 million Ukrainians living under an illegal Russian occupation. Hello? Hello, cocksucker? No, he's gone. Whatever you think of Nigel Farage, you may even have voted for him, but trust me when I tell you, he is an apologist for appeasement, an apologist for brutal dictators, and he is a cowardly, bootlicking, opportunist shit stain on humanity. However, nothing compared to that master negotiator Donald Trump, an idiotic, ignorant leader with a feeble conceptual grasp on reality where the politics of propaganda and intimidation are always proudly on display. Trump and his minions, including Farage, have betrayed Ukraine, betrayed a people who have courageously fought to defend their land against a bully and a murdering tyrant. And the result is an emergence of a new US-Russian axis, the end of the Western alliance, because Trump is annoyed that he was publicly called out on his lies. Maybe, just maybe, this is the moment where the remaining Western allies see that Trump is an ally of no one. Maybe Trump has miscalculated, thinking that everyone was just going to bend the knee. Maybe the world will see that America in its present form is not to be trusted by anyone. And anyone who does trust Trump, people like Nigel Farage, for example, a boot-licking, cowardly cocksucker who, instead of doing any work for his constituents, is right now wanking for coins on a stage in Washington, having a big fat public MAGA wank for dollar, a fucking shit stain of a man. Well, quite a week. Trump has always been unpredictable, but this week has turned Western geopolitics on its head.
Jonathon Pye there. Great stuff. Once again. Yeah, so please do give him a follow and whatnot. Fantastic rant, yeah, as always, Morbius. Quite correct. Ordinal Father, welcome to the chat. Oh, I feel better after that little comedy break there. Jacqueline, I will check out Josh Johnson as well, yeah. Put my teeth in. Okay, let's move on. Let's see what's happening with the German election. It looks like it's all over, bar the shouting. So I've got an article queued up here. This is the seat projection. So the Conservatives look set to win with 210 seats, but quite alarmingly, the AfD, that's the far-right party, have gone up to second place from fifth the last time around, and will have around 145 seats, according to this projection. In third is the Social Democrats, who are the sort of, well, in the UK, would be seen as moderate right. The Greens with 94 seats, but the Greens in Germany compared to the UK are slightly more right-wing there again. You've got Left, which speaks for itself. That's not my party. The party is called Left with 94 seats, and they speak for themselves. And the others with 0. So this is according to the exit poll. They're already celebrating the win, that is the Conservatives. So the point was for everyone to try and rally together and keep out the far right, of course, the AfD. Obviously the Conservatives who have won would be centre-right as well, not something that I would approve of, but on the scale of things, you'd have to say begrudgingly, nevertheless preferable to having the far-right party in. So they're set to be the largest party in the next parliament with 30% of the vote, and that's according to this article from the BBC. I'm just going to turn the background music down a touch. Friedrich Merz, who's now in pole position to become the next Chancellor, hailed a terrific election campaign, he says, and there's no time to waste in forming a government. The AfD is expected to become the second biggest force with a record 20% of the vote. That's 1 in 5. That's not great. Even though they've not got in this time, like I said, they've jumped up from 5th to 2nd, and that should be particularly worrying, not just for anyone in Germany, but Europe and indeed the wider world. The chairman, Tino Shrapala, has said we've received the confidence of the voters, and that should be something else everyone else accepts as well, I should say. As predicted, it's been a bad night for Olaf Scholz from the Social Democrats. It looks like they're finishing up in third, like I said. And he said the results are bitter and called it a defeat. So the attention now turns to Merz, who will try and form a coalition. If he does get the 210 seats, though, that won't quite be enough to get him over the line. course, they have more of a PR-based system, as you can see, and our first past the post here in the UK. And a similar pattern for the Bundestag. I won't go through all the individual seats. So they've pretty much declared victory, as you can see. He says it's a historic night for the Conservative Party and that the CDU and its sister party in Bavaria, the CSU, worked very well together and prepared very well for this election. I mean, you know, there's nothing much to cheer about in this. Personally, I would have hoped to see firmly socialist parties doing better. But electorally speaking, this is another fine example of where neoliberalism leads. Of course, we had years and years of conservative leadership under Angela Merkel until quite recently. And that's led to the rise of the far right in Germany. We're seeing similar patterns in polling here in the UK, which is pretty scary, pretty worrying, certainly. Because the neoliberals will work so hard to put down socialists, to put down the left wing, that they completely turn their attention away from the far right and often try and imitate them and lead towards their policies to try and win far right votes, which is obviously something you shouldn't do. Recently, here in the UK, we saw Labour adopting an anti-immigration promotional strategy using the bright blue colours that Reform normally use on their promotional material and on their logo as well. And yeah, you can't fight them on their territory because you'll always lose. And I brought that up a few times in recent live streams, so I won't go into the, nitty-gritty of that again. Quick reminder, people, make sure you've hit thumbs up on the stream. Thanks for sticking out with me here on the Sunday live stream here on My Left Eye. So that's the bar graph version. But 1 in 5 votes. We talk about history repeating a lot here on the channel. Fortunately, the AFD will be quite pleased with that result themselves. But the left really do have to get their shit together and kick out the right, whether it's the Conservatives and the far right as well. So that's the latest. It looks like that's all done and dusted. No hung parliament to mull over. Just going to see what's yet to be announced where the coalition's concerned, and that's the German election which took place this evening. Okay, I'm just going to decide where we're going to go to next. Yeah, let's go over the latest in Ukraine first, of course. Zelensky had a massive press conference today. As I said earlier in the stream, there were also massive drone strikes on Ukraine carried out by Russia. This is just one day before the 3rd anniversary of Russia's, quote, special military operation first taking place. And of course, recently, and very suddenly, Trump has put America firmly on the other side of the fence. He's palling up to Vladimir Putin. And he's turned his back on Volodymyr Zelensky, who was trying to appeal to America in today's speech. Amongst other things, he was pointing out that aid that was promised to Ukraine hasn't been received, to the tune of about $15 billion worth. Just bring background music back in. So, amongst that, also, quite shockingly, I don't think anyone was expecting this to be on the table. He said that he'd be prepared to step down should Ukraine become a member of NATO or be promised NATO membership, which is something I really would think is not a good idea. He responded to the accusations from Trump about him being a dictator. I've mentioned that in previous streams and videos. But what do you think? Do you think he is likely to go through with that? To stand down? Do you think that Ukraine could become a member of NATO? I think that's a recipe for further disaster myself. I think that would only invite more conflict in the future. Of course, Putin would say that the whole reason behind this so-called special military operation was because of NATO creeping ever closer to the borders of Russia, as well as him wanting to remove fascist neo-Nazi forces from within the Ukraine army. So if you give Ukraine NATO membership, I just think that's going to be further incentive from Putin. I'm not going to say what's right and what's wrong, obviously. I want the conflict to be over, this to be settled over a table. But that's just the way I could see things going. 3 years it's been. So yeah, 267 drones were used in this attack that I mentioned earlier. A single coordinated attack, 13 regions were targeted, and while many of the drones were repelled, those that would not cause destruction to infrastructure, and at least 3 casualties, emergency services said. Ukraine's Air Force reported that 138 of the drones were shot down and 119, which were decoy drones, were lost without negative consequences, likely due to jamming. In Kiev, the attack meant 6 hours of air alerts. Zelensky claims 1,150 drones, 1,400 bombs and 35 missiles were launched by Russia this week. And I have to say that looks like deliberate taunting, not just because of it coming on almost the anniversary of the start of this escalation, but also now that he knows, Putin that is, knows that he's got Donald Trump on side, he's going to act as though he can do this sort of thing with impunity. Because at the moment it looks like Trump's going to leave Zelensky as a sitting duck. When you look at this globally, politically, you're talking about the United States of America allied with the Russian Federation versus the EU. Yeah, and if that doesn't sound great, it's because it isn't. So it also says the US and Russia held preliminary talks in Saudi Arabia this week without delegates from Europe, including Ukraine, present, which resulted in European leaders holding a hastily arranged summit in Paris. Yeah, so Zelensky's been cut out of the talks. He's going to be meeting with Starmer, who's also going to be meeting Donald Trump this week. If Keith thinks that he can storm across to America, wave a finger at Donald Trump and get him to change his mind on anything, then he's a few sandwiches short of a picnic. And now we are clearly set apart from America in that regard. I guess from Starmer's point of view, with him maybe attempting to get some concessions from the EU, even though we're not going to be rejoining the single market and customs union or having full freedom of movement again, he will need to be on a certain side of the fence for this if he's going to negotiate anything from the EU. While we normally do go along with America, that's the main reason I can see us not towing America's line where this issue is concerned. But he's going to try his level best to go and stand up to Trump. If you've ever seen that footage of him in the gymnasium with the punch bag, yeah, I could imagine it going something like that. And if the shit hits the fan, well, I don't even want to imagine that. Like I said, the United States and the Russian Federation against the European Union, which also begs the question, is it actually a coincidence, which it isn't, that a lot of nations in Europe, including Starmer as well, are calling for an increase in defence spending? I think the latest figure that he's calling for is around 2.5% of GDP. And other countries are doing the same. Is this in anticipation of some sort of wider conflict? We can only hope not. We can only hope that it's a precautionary measure at best, but it doesn't take much to light the tinderbox where war's concerned, unfortunately. Just finally, French President Emmanuel Macron is going to be visiting Washington as well. So he's going there tomorrow. Starmer's going to be going there on Thursday. Obviously, Keith has publicly backed Zelensky. And just finally, the Pope, who's very poorly at the moment, wrote in remarks released on Sunday that the third anniversary of the war was a painful and shameful occasion for the whole humanity. Yeah, apparently the Pope Francis is in hospital at the moment with respiratory illness, but he's still throwing in his 2 cents on this matter, for what it's worth. Please don't be World War III. Oh, what a time to be alive, people. So what are you saying about that topic? Yeah, good point there, my pal Foot. We shouldn't increase defence spending at the expense of public services. We all know about Starmer and Reeves's plans for public service cuts, welfare sort of benefits cuts, as we call them in the UK. That's not where they should be getting the money from. if they do increase defence spending. Of course, that money, like with anything else, should always come from the top. Let the rich go to the front lines if they want us to go to war so much, and you never see them sending the sons and daughters to the front line or going there themselves, do you? But they're always happy to help start them. Yeah, I guess the next steps in this diplomatically important. Some people claim that Putin doesn't just want to stop at Ukraine, that he wants to get further into Europe. That sort of thing. I'll keep you up to speed with that story, of course, here on My Left Eye. I'm gonna just get on to other matters now. I'm still undecided about the chances of Zelensky actually stepping down. I'm just going to give it, I'm going to see how these talks with Macron, Starmer et al. Go, and I think we might get a bit of a clearer picture then, so I just need a bit more data before I put myself on one side of the fence there. Whilst I've been bringing Starmer into the conversation there, I think we'll go over to this latest polling now. And as you'd imagine, once again, it doesn't look very good for Keith. Approval rating 14%. 14%. It's a statistic so low you'd think that Donald Trump had made it up. But no, these are the hard cold facts. This is from YouGov polling July last year to February 2025. As you can see there, disapproval up at 68%. No way Starmer is going to last until the next election. I would have some serious doubts about whether he'll last until the end of 2025. So what do you think about this fresh stats from Stats for Lefties? Also worth a follow on social media. This again also reflects what I was saying earlier about trying to cozy up to the far right, to imitate their policies and try and siphon off votes from the far right. It's just not happening. He can't keep anyone happy. It just gets worse and worse. Whatever demographic you look at, there's complete and utter dissatisfaction. 14%. 14%. Shocking. Yes, I just wanted to quickly bring that to your attention and I'll move on to another topic in just a sec. Bear with me, people. Quite right, Andy. There's billions swimming around in the Cayman Islands, etc. Yeah, the Virgin Islands, Swiss bank accounts, and we could use that for public services, not to mention the richest 1% who could be in the armed forces. Yeah, good point. Gone are the days when those who started wars would go out to the front lines. In this country, the last head of state who went out to the front lines of a battlefield whilst being head of state was Richard III, who died in the so-called Wars of the Roses, which took place not far from, well, I guess exactly where this stream is coming to you from this evening as well. So quite some time ago. Couldn't really picture Trump going over the top in the trenches or whatnot, could you? I mean, alright, I'll get rid of the graphic there. Gonna move on. Just this very quick update whilst we're talking about Labour. I'll get on to the latest in Gaza in just one moment. Very quick update on this story I mentioned on previous live streams. You might remember this as well. Just the other week there was this whole furore over a WhatsApp group with MPs stepping down over these awful messages that were discovered. But now one of them is going to be facing a standards probe. You can see here in this article. So Andrew Gwynn, who was sacked as a minister and suspended from the Labour Party earlier this month after a newspaper reported offensive messages in a WhatsApp group, who's now the independent MP for Gorton and Denton, which is round here as well, apologised for any offence caused by the comments. What he means is, I didn't mean to get caught out. So the Commissioner of Standards, who looks into potential breaches of parliamentary rules, has opened this investigation. Because according to the code for the House of Commons, it says that MPs shall never undertake any action which would cause significant damage to the reputation and integrity of the House of Commons as a whole, or its members generally. Not particularly a heavily enforced rule, as you'd probably imagine, given parliamentary standards these days. So some of the things he posted about in the chat group were hoping that a 72-year-old woman would soon be dead after she wrote to her local councillor about bin collections. He also joked about a constituent being mown down by a truck in the messages, which was seen by the BBC. And he also follows Burnley MP Oliver Ryan and 11 councillors in Greater Manchester who were members of the WhatsApp group, also suspended by the Labour Party. The Commissioner for Standards decides whether an MP has broken rules after the investigation. So that might take some time. I'll try and keep you up to speed, but that's the latest on that one. Yeah. Tories in red rosettes. It's the same kind of crap you see from the likes of, 30p Neanderthal. Certainly not something that you'd see from genuine socialists who care about the communities within the constituencies that they're elected to represent. It's almost as if they just want to take the money, ignore any problems, and get another step up the career ladder. Shocking. Okay, people, can we see some solidarity for Palestine in the chat, please? Flags and watermelons, etc. We're going to move on to issues in Gaza now. I'm just going to try and go in chronological order from a few things that have happened during the week. Thanks a lot for that, people. Always great to see the flags and watermelons up there. So there was a documentary on the BBC called Gaza, How to Survive a War Zone, and it was narrated, I've seen it myself, it's been pulled now. I do have a source on it as well. If you do actually want to see it, I might either share that in the description for this live stream or something else, but I do think we need to try and get this out. It's an incredibly moving film, of course, but fantastically narrated and presented by a 13-year-old Gazan who speaks incredibly fantastic English, like really well. It goes to show you just how educated and literate Palestinians are when they're not having the shit blown out of them by Zionist genocidal forces, of course. And if you stopped the average 13-year-old on the streets of the UK, I doubt that they'd have the same level of expertise in foreign languages as he does. But as I was saying, a really moving documentary that just goes to show the level of destruction, and it is, a lot of the footage is right down there with the people as they fleeing from one zone to another. Interviews that just absolutely tear your heart out. It really does ring true just how serious this destruction and displacement is in Gaza. And that upset some of the Zionists because, as we all know, the mainstream media are banned from entering Gaza. The footage that we see around social media, we're lucky that it gets out there as well from people who just film things as they can, independent journalists as well. We also know that journalists themselves are being targeted as part of the Zionist regime. A record number of journalists have been killed in this conflict, and they really do want to try and put a veil over it and keep the wider world in the dark. So this truth-speaking documentary, from a Zionist point of view, they've become really rattled and tried to suppress its release. They've gone running to the BBC, who I'm sure would always be happy to oblige them, the same way that they're always happy to interject interviews with Palestinian representatives, or in fact anyone who is sympathetic or empathetic to the plight of Palestinians, to remind them as unofficial Israeli spokes that Israel would deny the genocide you're describing. They would deny the actual facts that they're saying. And this is, I guess, just the latest example of that unfortunate complicity that we see on UK state media. And the reason that they're citing, this is, it's just so pathetic. They're saying that the 13-year-old narrator I mentioned is the son of a Hamas official. So a statement says, Gaza, How to Survive a War Zone features important stories we think should be told, those of the experiences of children in Gaza. There have been continuing questions raised about the programme, and in the light of these we are conducting further due diligence with the production company. The programme will not be available on iPlayer while this is taking place. Well, I said earlier in the stream, when we were in Keith's Fondue Lounge, that Lisa Nandy's been quiet. She has actually put her head above the parapet on this occasion as Culture Secretary, and said on Thursday that she would discuss the matter with the BBC's Director General and Chairman, particularly around the way in which they source the people who were featured in their programme. Now, of course, remember, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, their thems and comrades alike, that Hamas is a political movement with a military wing. They are prescribed as a terrorist group here in the UK. But that doesn't take away any of the truth of the content of the documentary. And I think that's an absolutely pathetic reason for pulling this off of iPlayer. A statement on Wednesday also said the film remains a powerful child's eye view of the devastating consequences of the war in Gaza, which they believe is an invaluable testament to their experiences, and we must meet our commitment to transparency. Yeah, unless Bibi says so, because he's thrown his toys out of the pram, because people actually tell him the truth about what he's doing, and this is a demonstration and further evidence in the cases against him and the arrest warrants put out by the International Courts of Justice. Yeah, I think that's a shocking case of censorship. That's the narrator who I mentioned there. Very articulate young man, has to be said if you've not seen it. So I do have a copy of the full documentary, but I can post a link in the description for a Twitter account that I follow, who shared that as well. So please do check that out. I'll put that in. Excuse me. I'll put that in the description once I've finished the stream. Absolutely do check that out. It is very moving documentary, and I really hope the BBC come to the senses and stop all of this clear bias towards Israel, and just let the truth be told. Also this week we saw 6 of the hostages being returned to Israel. However, Israel are delaying the release of over 600 prisoners. There's been an argument over the exchange of bodies. Israel are claiming that they're expecting one of the bodies of the dead hostages to be returned this week, and that Hamas sent them the wrong body. Whether that's actually true or not, the correct remains themselves were returned the day after. And again, the mainstream media were quite silent when 8 Palestinians' bodies were returned in carrier bags mixed in together, just sort of charred bones and unrecognisable body parts all together, just in carrier bags, and just sort of dumped at the side of the road in a, you know, vastly disrespectful fashion. And now they're choosing to delay the release, as I said, of some 620 prisoners. Now, I've got a bit of a video clip about that. I'll play in just a second. I just want to get your thoughts in the chat as well before I get off on a tangent myself. Floor Snake, yeah, I'm glad that documentary's been preserved online as well, in case the British Bureau of Journalism tries to permanently spike it. Yeah, try as they might, I don't think they'll suppress that as effectively as they might like. Yes, where was I? It remains to be seen when these prisoners are going to be released. But again, Israel are happy to mess about with the ceasefire agreement. The predicament that Netanyahu himself is in at the moment in particular is that if they enter into phase 2 of the ceasefire negotiations, which is due to happen very shortly, then that's going to create a political crisis for him, because what is on the table for the second phase of the ceasefire is apparently beyond the pale for some of the far-right, extremely Zionist, racist, fascist members of his government, and they're threatening to quit should they go into phase 2. So his back's against the wall in a lot of ways. Get out your small violins, people, and your big tissues. Let's have a bit of a cry. Oh, the poor man. No, seriously. Right, let's take a look at this vid. I've got 2 videos here. The first of these comes from Middle East Eye, so this is going to be about these prisoners being held back whilst Hamas have met their side of the bargain. 6 hostages have been returned in good health.
انه قديش المقاومه بغزه اثبتت جدارتها، باحترامها للوقت، باحترامها لتسليم الاسرى بوقت محدد، وقت معين، بهيئه ممتازه، بصحه جيده، بينما الاحتلال الصهيوني بيحاول يماطل، يلعب على اعصاب اهالي الاسرى، عائلاتهم، اطفالهم.
That I will not rest until the savages who
نهار والله الساعة بالنهار عند بيوم، الساعة إنما صلينا الفجر هان الساعة 3 بالليل طلعنا من الخليل من يطا ووصلنا هان صلاة الفجر، وصلينا ومن صلاة الفجر على الكرسي زي ما تشاهد. كم ساعة واحنا شو الواحد تفجرنا، بس شو نسوي؟ الحمد لله رب العالمين، ربنا يجيب فيه الخير إن شاء الله ويغير الأحوال هذه.
سنة لا لمسته ولا عبطته ولا يعني قعدت أنا وياه قعدة منيحة، ولا أكل من إيدي ولا عرفت كيف. فيعني عن جد جد شعور غريب جدا جدا، مش عارفة أحكي لك فيه. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله. طبعا دموع فرح، يعني اللي 16 سنة بروح أزور وباجي ومحرومة إني ألمس ابني ولا أشوفه بوضعه الطبيعي. الحمد لله الحمد لله، ربنا أكرمنا كرم كبير للأمانة. يعني
المحصلة هي أولادنا رح يروحوا بإذن الله رب العالمين. الأوراق القوة اللي موجودة عند كل طرف هناك موجودة، هذه الأوراق يعني ما حدا بيفرط فيها. احنا اولادنا تم الافراج عنهم او الاتفاق عليهم بموجب اتفاق يعني دولي وعالمي وبرعايات عالميه على رأس الولايات المتحده الامريكيه اللي هي الحليف الاكبر لاسرائيل. وما بعتقد انه هذا يعني التاجيل هو له سبب واحد، سبب واحد التعامل مع الكي الوعي الفلسطيني. الكي الوعي الاسرى الفلسطينيين، قضيه الاسرى الفلسطينيين قضيه جامعه بفلسطين. انا متاكد تماما انه الفرج قريب، ما في مجال يعني يتم التلاعب فيه. ورسالة إنه في المرحلة القادمة يفترض يكون في ضمانات أكثر من هيك. إحنا مش أرقام، إحنا عبارة عن ناس بشر أهالي، عندنا حياتنا، عندنا هدفنا، وعندنا أصولنا، وبالتالي يفترض إنه يكون في المراحل القادمة عدم السماح لمين ما كان يكون بإنه ما يلتزمش بالاتفاقات الموجودة. وفي المحصلة مرة أخرى يا جبل ما يهزك ليه.
Yeah, really well put together piece of film from Middle East Eye there. Please do give them a follow on your social media. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what he's saying in the comments there. Don't think it's likely that we're going to see journalists being allowed into Israel anytime soon. I have my doubts as well, Andy, over whether we can get into phase 2 of the ceasefire. We've seen how many times in the past that Netanyahu's railroaded negotiations just to try and get his own way. Let's not forget the ceasefire agreement that's happening now was on the table last April last year. It's almost exactly the same deal. We know that Netanyahu doesn't give a shit about the hostages. We know that there have been occasions where Hamas have offered to return hostages that have been turned down by Israel, even though Hamas have asked for nothing in return. That's all you need to know. And they've not just broken the ceasefire agreement, of course, in Gaza. They've also done the same in Lebanon, as you point out there in the chat as well. Hundreds of violations. They've continued to attack infrastructure. They've continued to kill people. They've continued to injure people. Areas that they're supposed to withdraw from, they've remained inside. A litany of examples. So yeah, keep calling it out where you see it, and yeah, Middle East Eye do excellent work. You're right there, Morbius. Declassified are very good as well, as you're saying. Laura Pidcock, who's one of the founders of Declassified, as well as also an excellent campaigner. Had the pleasure of joining her on campaigns and demos in Manchester in the past. And speaking of demos and protest in Manchester, what a wonderful quality segue that was. I've got some footage from the latest demo which took place yesterday right here in this good city. So let's see what's happening, people. As always, let us know if you've taken part in any protests, demonstrations, perhaps even non-violent direct action. Do always like to keep up to speed with that as a political and environmental activist myself. So this is the latest from right here. This is what we do here in town.
on stolen land. No peace on stolen land. No peace on stolen land. No peace on stolen land. When people are occupied.
That's from Eye on Palestine there, if you want to check out the original posters. That clip came from Instagram, as you can see there. Eye on Palestine, great footage from yesterday's march in Manchester. Always happy to show support for Palestine here in the northwest. Another event from the Middle East today as well. As I said, huge crowds gathered at a stadium for the former Hezbollah leader Nasrallah's funeral, who was killed in an airstrike in Beirut in September, you'll remember. Mourners were dressed in black and flocked to the stadium on the outskirts of the Lebanese capital on Sunday. They also paid their respects to Hashem Safieddine, Nasrallah's successor, who was killed in a separate Israeli strike before he could assume his post. The former leader of the Lebanese militant Shia Islamist group was one of the most influential figures in the Middle East. The funeral began at 1 o'clock local time, and Israel launched airstrikes in southern Lebanon targeting Hezbollah rocket launchers at the same time. However, as we said, those are violations again of the ceasefire deal. You can see the huge crowds and pictures of the two of them together. 50,000 capacity Camille Shamoun Sports City Stadium. Nasrallah's coffin was draped in Hezbollah's flag and paraded along with Safieddin's casket through huge crowds of black-clad mourners. The current leader, Naim Qassem, addressed mourners via video link from an undisclosed location, saying Hezbollah remained strong and would not submit. Of course, the ceasefire came after a failed invasion of Lebanon by Israel. They got their asses handed to them by Hezbollah. Continued to pathetically launch air assaults, but it turns out when they actually come up against a formidable fighting force such as Hezbollah is, it's not as easy as shooting kids from a mile away, which is the kind of fight that they're used to. Morbius, thanks a lot for the gifted membership. Thanks for the support there, as always. Massively appreciated. From another legendary member of the Brew Crew, Morbius, thanks again. So the article also says the mass funeral is an apparent show of strength for Hezbollah, which suffered a series of major setbacks during Israel's campaign in Lebanon last year. Defense Minister Katz wrote on Twitter that Israeli planes were flying over the stadium whilst the funeral took place to convey a clear message. Whoever threatens to destroy Israel, that will be the end of them. I don't think that's a reliable source of information there. Andy Carter thanks a lot for the gifted membership as well. Graham Turner, hope you enjoy your perks there. So where was I? Yeah, as well as the stadium, there were millions of other ceremonies taking place. Millions of people at ceremonies taking place throughout other areas in Lebanon as well. The offensive prior to the ceasefire killed around 4,000 people in Lebanon. Many civilians were displaced. 1.2 million, you'll recall. That's a huge number of people. That was before the ceasefire deal was struck in November last year. There are also representatives from Iran, Iraq, Yemen at the funeral, which was delayed to allow time for the withdrawal of Israeli forces from southern Lebanon, though some troops still remain. Netanyahu's also made threats against Syria today, which I've noticed. He's called for forces in southern Syria to be eradicated. He says there shouldn't be any further south in Damascus. We'll have to see what develops with that. This, of course, is part of his lunatic Greater Israel plan. This despotic, deluded, illegal land-grabbing campaign. And Brett James as well, thanks a lot for the gifted membership. Great stuff as well. Andy Carter too. Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Brett and Andy. And Brett rocking up with some of these static emojis there. That's just one of the perks that you get with a membership here on the channel. So who we got there? I think that's Kia Hardy, 30p Lee, got Speaker of the House Sir Lindsay Hoyle, you got Keith Starmer, Tony Blair there, Diane Abbott, and of course Palestine. More to choose from. I'm going to be adding, I do need to get round to that, adding some new emojis to the selection. The more memberships we get, the more I can add, so thanks a lot for helping to expand that catalogue, as it were. Yeah, people, let me know your thoughts on that story in the chat or in the comments section if you're watching back on a replay. Make sure you've hit thumbs up on the stream as well, that would be fantastic. Speaking of protest, I've got another quick update on something I've mentioned previously on streams before. Some sentencing where environmental protest is concerned. Of course, regular viewers will know that I'm a supporter and activist with Just Stop Oil. So this is the latest, some of the latest on the court cases. Unfortunately, it's not great news. So this was a jury trial. 5 people upon trial, 4 of them found guilty, 1 of them found not guilty. So Daniel, Margaret, Indigo and Ella were found guilty of conspiracy to commit a public nuisance after they were arrested on their way to Manchester Airport on the 5th of August. They were on the way to carry out a non-violent direct action. Noah was arrested later that day at his home in Birmingham, was acquitted. The 4 found guilty, been granted bail and will remain in prison until the sentencing on the 23rd of May, despite having already spent 6 months on remand. Incredible. Just, sorry, the names there aren't the same order that they are in the picture. So you do have Indigo on the left there, but then you've got Ella. This is from left to right, by the way. So Indigo, Ella, Margaret, Daniel and Noah. Just a slightly different order than it is above, but yeah, again. Friends of mine, yeah, what can you say? What can you say? I guess we're going to wait to see what happens when the sentencing happens. They still have to wait for that, but having been kept on remand for so long, it's really not great seeing people who you know have to go through this, even though they're just trying to stand up to injustice and using non-violent direct action to do so. So that's the latest on that story. Still waiting to hear the outcome of this appeal for some of those who've already been sentenced and imprisoned, including the Whole Truth 5, among them Extinction Rebellion and Just Uphold co-founder Roger Hallam, as well as, again, other dear friends of mine who I think the sentencing that they've received is an absolute injustice, so I'll keep you up to speed with those stories, as always. And we're even getting into thought police territory, you know, where that sort of thing is concerned. A lot of the people who've received 4-5 year sentences have been arrested simply for holding Zoom calls and discussion of social theory during Zoom calls. We've seen people's homes getting raided and whatnot all over the place as well. Okay, people, I'll be bringing the stream to a close quite shortly. I just want to give another shout out to all the members on the channel before we go. I'll just have to remove the chat one moment. I'll say thanks again, but please do hang around. I'm going to see if we can raid in, we can redirect into anyone who's live at the moment. I look forward to updating that members channel. Thanks again to everybody who's gifted memberships on tonight's stream, as well as the super chats as well. Super thanks are open as well if you're watching back on a replay, so please do consider that way of supporting the channel. Make sure you've hit thumbs up on the stream before we part ways this evening. All Shorts is live, okay, great stuff. I'll get that lined up. Final reminder, if you'd like to join this list of incredible supporters on the channel, it's just 99p, a lot cheaper than the price of a tasty hot beverage, and you get a lot of great perks as well. Hit the perks button if you want to find out more about those. And you are quite right, All Shorts is live, so I've got that queued up and good to go. I'll join you over there shortly as well, so please do stick around and we'll go and join All Shorts. Thanks again, members. I will of course be returning with the Brews at 10 tomorrow, so please join me for that. 10 PM. The Brews at 10. Weekday live streams here on My Left Eye. Bring a nice warm cup of solidarity as well, and a few tea-based puns as well. We don't mind. We don't mind those. Not at all. Be great to see you there. I think PMQs is going to be back this coming Wednesday as well, so that to look forward to. Also, new version of the game that we play along as well. Yeah, so thanks a lot for all of your comments in the chat. It's been great to catch up with everyone tonight. Take care, everyone. I'm going to be jumping over to All Shorts. Please do join me there in just a moment. But for now, hope you've had a good week. Thanks for spending the evening with me, your host Lefty. Take care, everybody. My Left, I'll be seeing you soon. Good night.
We've got one more surprise in case this wasn't enough. I'm gonna let Elon do it. Who else is here?
Well, President Milei has a gift for me.
Javier Milei from Argentina. You guys know who that is, right?
Thank you. This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!